Now that we've passed the quarter mark of the shortened NBA season, we have a pretty good feel of what a lot of teams' identities are. The Nets are a wild scoring machine. The Clippers are relentless. The Lakers are polished. The Sixers, who last year looked constantly stuck in cement, now have that smooth grooviness feel as they currently rule the East. But there are still plenty of teams trying to figure out exactly who and what they are. And the Suns and Mavericks, well, those are two of them. Both had high expectations going into the year. Both have had struggles with injuries and with COVID. But after a 3-day stretch in which they faced each other twice, only one of them seems to have found its footing. In fact, with last night's win, the Suns have now won 3 straight, pushing them to 6th in the West and only a half a game out of 4th. And the game, it wasn't pretty, but that's kind of the point. The ability to pull through a rough outing is one of the qualities that separates out whether teams really have it or not. And last night, Phoenix fell behind by as much as 11 before fighting its way to a thriller of a finish. Not surprisingly, Phoenix's backbone in this game was 35-year-old Chris Paul, 34 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. It was Chris who kept his teammates focused during a tug-of-war fourth quarter. And when the Suns found themselves down by 2 with less than a minute on the clock, it was Chris who ran a play that his old and now once again coach, Monty Williams, noted that he stole from CP's other old coach, Doc Rivers. Take a listen.
Either Chris Paul or Devin Booker will be involved here.
It is Paul with 6 seconds. Paul guarded well by Kleba. Now Booker squares up for 3 over Richardson with 1.5 left. Suns go in front. Dallas takes a timeout.
That was a brilliant executed play.
It really was. Nice screen by Ayton there, by the way. CP threading the pass despite being guarded by Kleba's 7-foot wingspan. And then Devin Booker with a clutch shot, just 1.5 on the clock. Now, technically, Booker wasn't supposed to even be in the game at that point. This was his first game back from a hamstring strain, and he was on a minutes restriction he had already surpassed. Here is Williams explaining.
I imagine if I would have taken Book out in the fourth, that would have been the first time you've seen a player knock a coach out on the sideline. So I just thought I'd stay away from that scenario and let him play as long as he was looking good.
Amazing. As for CP and Booker, the big brother, little brother relationship the Suns front office had hoped for when they traded for Chris seems to have fully taken root. After the game, CP says the two have reached a point they can push each other without mincing words, while Book said he's pretty much open to anything CP tells him.
You know, he's been in every situation, you know, that I want to get to. You know, so I have the cheat code of being alongside of him, his backcourt mate. You know, from on the court to off the court, just everything he does, you know, I'm a sponge to it.
I was telling the guys in the locker room, I don't know if I can ever retire because the emotional roller coaster that you go on during the game, like for real, like there's no high like that, the energy, you know, when you pissed and mad and then to, you know, the joy winning the games.
As for the Mavericks, well, their post-game press conference is not nearly as chipper. Dallas had a foul to give before Book hit the game winner, but Kleba didn't use it on Paul. The exact kind of messed up detail that has plagued Dallas in what is now a 6-game losing streak. As for Doncic, well, remember a few days ago he said, quote, "It's looking like we don't care." Doncic was more positive last night, saying the Mavericks were close to climbing out of their slump, which is true. But just like the Suns' ability to fight through adversity for a win tells you something, the Mavericks' inability to do so is also telling right now. Dallas has choked up multiple leads during its losing streak. In fact, the past 12 times that Dallas has found itself in a one-score game, it's lost all 12 times, which is not what you want. The Mavericks are also the league's worst three-point shooting team and ranked 13th in the overall West standings, not just outside the playoff picture, but outside play-in game range as well. And look, we are only a little bit more than a quarter of the way through the season. There is time for the Mavericks to get it together. The Suns could still fall apart. But we are starting to feel like we know who these teams are, and that is a much nicer feeling for one of them than the other. Paul, at this point in the season, who are the Suns to you?
They're a legitimate playoff team. I'm going off what I saw from them last year in the bubble. They added Chris Paul, and that's all I think this team really needed was some leadership. He developed a culture there in Phoenix, a well-respected veteran who knows how to win. And, you know, this team hasn't been to the playoffs in a long time, so playoff expectations are right in front of their eyes, and I think they can make it.
Absolutely. Paul, you are hitting it on the head, and I think we got to give a lot of credit to James Jones, my guy from the Heat. I won titles with him. I think he had a vision from the beginning. He brought in Monty Williams to go with Devin Booker, a guy that's going to hold him accountable, a guy that's going to run dynamic stuff for him, and then they finished it off with Chris Paul. And Chris Paul, we know, he is the ultimate competitor. I guarantee you this guy plays horseshoes, he gets pissed if he loses. So you put him together with a guy like Devin Booker, and those two guys working together, like Devin Booker's a smart kid. You heard everything he said was the exact right thing you want to hear from him. And those two together, that's a playoff basketball team, and I wouldn't want to match up with them.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.